Hello, it's Rev Brenda. I used to be considered a gut and brain coach, and it's changed to quantum field coach. And I have a couple of things for specifically the Dr. Joe and Tony Robbins communities to consider, and Belinda Bloom's um, students, or whatever you would like to call yourselves, that work with Belinda Bloom. Um, Firstly and foremostly, uh, it's um, it's really apparent to me that it's become aware in my environment that um, with Dr. Joe Day retreats in Seattle, um, twice I've been there, and the first time I brought my own food, but they had food enough there that I could eat and still be okay with it because my diet was different then. Now my diet has changed, and my lifestyle has changed the way I put energy into how I make my food, and sensing energy from food and not wanting to connect with energy that isn't energy enough for my body energetically through the food, because food is energy. And especially when I'm going to honor people with my sacred service, I want to be aware of my energy. I want to be in tune with my energy. I want to be sure that I'm connecting with source energy through food and any other vibrational way to the best of my ability for the good of all, but especially my particular Healy that I'm so preciously endowed with. And so I'm curious to know what the thoughts are of the observations of that statement as a healer of any kind, anywhere, of anybody, not to mention especially Dr. Joe's community in particular, because this is coming from someone that's never even been to a retreat week long and is considered a novice, and was introduced to this whole observation that I'm saying to share with you based on my connection with my body because of the work I've done with Dr. Joe's work that has released 15 diseases, got me off 13 meds, got me off the couch, obsessed with TV because of the addictive emotions, to creating an environment that is absolutely miraculous constantly. And the fact that I needed to bring my own food to a retreat where it's ran by people that personally know people in the community very closely and very connected to the source of Dr. Joe's work, I'll just say it paused for cause to me to have this be a really sincerely in-depth observation of oneself, other than this what I'm going to share with you, and ask yourself, why is this, and what would I do differently if I don't feel like it's total celebration moment, when I tell you that I had to um, find a way to make sure that I had the energy food that I needed to provide my own environment, and to make sure my vibration was high enough so I could provide sacred service, because I hold that dearly in my heart and soul. I always have for eons beyond this time and space in this life. So I want to let you know that financially, I have 1132 a month of actual dependable income. I am evolving and expanding my life and my environment and my resources on ways that are beyond financial means, but that's how much money I get, that I know I'm going to get every month. Even so, I decided that I would do an experiment in my field in that environment at the retreat. And therefore, I created, in a matter of less than 2 hours, a whole feast for the whole community, just to do an experiment and just to set it out and just to have it be separate, completely separate, as an experiment of energy. And the experience that I experienced was the experience I experienced with my food, with everybody. The energy is palpable. The energy I permit or permeate from it, with it, for it, to it, as it is, like I was told, the person was speechless and left in awe and wanted that And that person in particular started out looking at my food, saying there was like 60 different plants and like 10 different varieties of choices. And the thing that she said is, but I don't like beets. From what I know of energy with the beautiful beets, is that the beautiful beets, they threaten the liver to be contracted, either in depression of anger turned inward, or the threat of anger not being able to be contained and going to escape, which means cleanse, because they're so powerfully building and cleansing, or they will help awaken the creative energy to raise up to express the energy through the liver of anger, because there's justifiable anger. So, because I'm in tune with that energy of that plant and what it does and what to look for in different energies of plants, of which there's 300,000 edible plants. I can't wait to try more. I try more every time I get an opportunity because I'm feeding more opportunities for gut bugs. And I honor my gut bugs sacredly. They are more of me tenfold than I am human cells. They are what instructed my brain. They're not the second brain. And I won't get into how they're becoming extinct, even though they've survived in the planets, deep in the core of the ice in the Arctic Circle. They're alive and thriving. Deep in the acidic waters that are so hot or in volcanoes, they had to find a special arm to get them. And we're killing them because of our standard American diet, because of our drugs, our big pharma, disconnecting from spirit through microdosing, covering up our true expression of spirit, not only for the service of ourselves, but for the service of our Heelys. I say to you then, what would you experience in your environment if you knew that you were in tune to energy and you couldn't but help notice the difference in energy from all the donuts and candies and cakes and cookies and breads? And I'm not even sure, because I don't even look at that kind of energy. I don't even know if those were all I saw was a bunch of white product. And the white product is so repelling to me because of how devastating it's killing people. Even my own family, I don't know if I'll be able to reverse my daughter's Alzheimer's, which is actually diabetes 3, and she's not even 36. So, what would you experience as me, not ever have been to a retreat, and knowing that I'm treated differently and less than in the sense of abilities to tap into further and deeper knowledge and community and things because of my ability to not go to retreats because of the money that I like financially don't have, but at the same time I've gained resources beyond what any dollar could give me in resources and education, opportunity, blessed, sacred service, miracles happening, flying into my life so fast I can barely sleep because I'm keeping up with them. And how the shock and awe and amazement and constant wonderment of that is so beyond mystical. It's beyond divine. I don't even know the word for it. And then to know that all the people that you know, that even know Dr. Joe, some of you, actually were attracted to my table just from the energy. And I'm coming back from the bathroom, and a group of you are sitting around talking about my food and its energy and the ability to taste. And the fact that that person that I talked about with the liver is so disconnected from this kind of reality, even though there's 80,000 studies and reports out there showing that plant-based food that's not processed and not refined is proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. I've never heard of 80,000 studies for anything. And yet none of the offers at that place were even safe enough for me to even look at very long because of the energetic degradation. And the fact that I know that in 2 minutes time, I can turn on and off disease causing genes by crying tears of gratitude. I've trained myself. because of Belinda's free work. So the fact that I am about ready to go to the UN besides seriously can prove genocide, intentional, vibrational, mind mapping, brainwashing genocide through our food that we offer everybody around the world that is dying from it. Whole societies are changing health-wise because of our food, like the plastic in mozzarella cheese, in the most addictive food in the world, pizza, for instance. I won't get into what that dough does to our inability to have any communication between our gut bugs that are trying to put receptor sites in the GI tract. The cookies, the donuts, all of it does that. The pizza dough. And so, what would you think and feel and act and behave like if you were me experiencing all that and you were noticing beyond exciting hope that you always have lived your life? If my experience could just touch one person, my whole life would be worth it, because yes, because that's how I give forward in love and joy. And the miraculous is so miraculous when you actually are part of that sacred service journey. And that beautiful being, who I'll let her tell her story, is actually the beginning experiment of our experiment to prove, repeat, replicate, and have double-blind placebo for homeopathic nutrition. I couldn't figure out, actually, I did figure out in the past that when Dr. Will Bulsiewicz said, go low and slow in order to grow, location, no, diversity of plants, I become aware of the fact that where my state of being was my gut, and the relationship that it needed a little teeny tiny bit of a diversity of plants. So I made it my passion, I made it my joy. Dr. Will taught me years ago, I don't even know how long ago, over a decade, to have a mindful relationship with my sacred food. And the more I got into that, of course, the more I wanted to do it again, because it's such a precious thing. It's so precious now that somebody experienced it so deeply just listening to me talk about it, that she tried that beet and she bought about 4 cubic foot area of food in my 7 cubic foot area of freezer. Like, all she did was I went through and told her basically what was in it. She was afraid that you guys were going to buy it all because of how you were talking about it. And she had already been wanting to try differently, a way of expressing herself through food, especially not consuming the energy of dead animal. And she was beyond excited when she tried my salad with the beets. Bless her heart. I do all that on purpose, and I'll do it again. You always have really bright food for a different reason, but the beet, yeah, I'm going to put the beet in everything everywhere I go. It's a good experiment to know who's the toxic person to focus on the most, except for people that are so toxic they're deciding to be unconscious and go to retreat after retreat after retreat and be so toxic that you end up getting treatment the next day for being around them and helping them heal. But anyway, yeah, so all that happened, but she was so toxic that I ended up refusing to give her my service with food, in the sense that I offered to begin with. I broke my verbal word, which is really my bond, and that's super important to know that. I refused her service based on the fact that I knew that she was so toxic. If she would have just eaten whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted, it probably would have killed her from sepsis, because she was so unaware of being unaware, that when I really screamed at her brain over and over and over again because she has not done the work that Dr. Joe talks about in every lecture that I've seen. And I haven't been to a retreat, but I do repetitively what the masters teach me because that's how they did it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be saying it. She's never done breaking the habit of being yourself. She's never done morning and evening, volume 1 or volume 2, daily. None of it. It took me calling the cops without her knowing to do a wellness check because I realized that I may have to have her committed involuntarily to get her brain right with drugs, which don't get her brain right, but I didn't know the state of the psychosis or delusion or denial, and I really didn't know if the food I had already given her would throw her into sepsis, because the state of her being unaware, even after a retreat, mind you, she was so unaware of being unaware after 3 days of not eating the standard American diet the best she could, because she was already in the action stage of the 8 stages of change. Now, I need you to just kind of become aware of how you would feel being in a whole community that are there to tell you as a novice how to be in Dr. Joe's community. Knowing all this and bringing something, because you know attraction is better than promotion. I just asked for a separate space. I asked to give a gift. And I may have saved hope. We're hoping that this homeopathic nutrition that I spent $800 with and turned to sacred service, and what that means in my culture, and it used to mean in Hippocratic Oath, period, and in humanity in general, back in the day, is that you turn to being awake and aware and available 24/7, 365. The price is a price of value that you can afford because you know it's a value, but it's what you can afford, because there is no price on sacred service, because sacred service means you're going to go to the very end of what you can to save a life, and you don't know if you can. So she had given me $1,000 for half of the payment of the food. It was $22.22, and I was not even going to break even. That's okay. And you got to understand my fixed income of all this on top of it, my ability and willingness and joyfully gifting her that part of me. Because it's hard to even give this food away because it's called the collective agreement to be unconscious in this society. Bruce Lipton talks all about it. And in a lot of ways, Dr. Joe does too, but I don't think he knows about this food part of the crossing the river. And that's a whole nother talk that is way more involved than this talk here, way more. And I did it all by doing Dr. Joe's work. That's how it started for me. That's not right. My journey of this part of my life after 40 years of trying to heal my gut, thanks to me screaming my sacred yes to Dr. Deb during Agape's 35th anniversary, like a month and a half after I met them online on YouTube, and somebody said they liked their music, and he's going to have a fit someday, Dr. Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith, and what my sacred yes has done for me, saying, how can I be of value today for the energies coming into my life? Because this beautiful being who, for the first time ever in my life, came up behind me, and instead of being threatened and having the reptilian brain turn on, I was like, ooh, what energy, I want to kiss her. And I did, actually. I turned around and kissed her. I didn't even know who she was. And to have it be here now, where we're doing our first experiment, which with what I now realize is homeopathic nutrition. I did it for myself, and it's how I changed so easily. Well, that wasn't true. It took me like 3 months of misery, of symptoms in my gut to get to this, but it's so worth it. So I'm going to leave that at there because that's 20 minutes and I'm just going to do the Dr. Joe talk on this one. Bye.